Why, hello there. It's the first day of the month. That's right, it's February the 1st. It's a glorious Tuesday. I'm off work. About 65 degrees outside. And that's not going to last long. Because I think tomorrow's going to be a little bit cooler. And we're expecting ice on Thursday during the day. So I may or may not go to work that day. We'll see. With that being said, we have to get into the news. And unfortunately, I don't know what is going on with his administration. Whereas President Trump tried to avoid war, it seems like Biden's trying to start a war with Russia. I don't know why. And Russia snaps back. Now, this story is brought to you by Reuters. Reuters, don't really care. Putin accuses the U.S. of trying to lure Russia into a war. Remember, no one wins. U.S. says Russia must pull back troops. Are they in Russia? Are they in Russia or are they not in Russia? I have a simple question for whoever's in charge. If the troops are in Russia, it's not an issue. It's their property, it's their land. They can do whatever they are. Are we supposed to go to war with NATO? Asked Putin. Moscow wants West to respect the 1999 Security Charter. Kyiv, Moscow, February 1st, Reuters. Russia President Vladimir Putin accuses the West on Tuesday of deliberately creating a scenario designed to lure it into a war and ignoring Russia's security concerns over Ukraine. In his first direct public comments since the crisis for nearly 6 weeks, the defiant Putin shows no signs of backing down from security demands that the West has called a non-starter and possible excuse to launch an investigation, but launch an invasion, which Moscow denies. It's already clear that the fundamental Russia concerns were ignored, Putin said at a news conference. With the visiting Prime Minister of Hungary, one of several NATO leaders, trying to intersect with him as the crisis has intensified. Biden is intensifying, the war hawks are intensifying. What is Russia to do? I'm kind of curious. Putin describes the potential future scenario in which Ukraine was admitted to NATO and then attempt to recapture the Crimea Peninsula territory Russia seized in 2014. Let's imagine Ukraine is a NATO member and starts these military operations. Are we supposed to go to war with NATO bloc? Has anyone given that any thought? Apparently not, he said. Russia has massed more than 100,000 troops onto the Ukrainian border, and Western countries say they fear Putin may be planning to invade. Or it could be Putin is afraid that NATO or America is going to invade Russia. Russia denies this, but as said, it could take unspecific military actions unless the security demands are met. Western countries say an invasion would bring sanctions on Moscow. The Kremlin wants the West to respect the 1999 agreement that no country can strengthen its own security at the expense of others, and which is considered the heart of the crisis. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, read more. I'm not going to read more. He raised the charter signed in Istanbul by members of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which includes the United States, Canada. During the call, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Lavrov says Blinken accepted, didn't need to discuss the matter further, while a U.S. account of the call focused for the need for Moscow to pull back. But do they really have to pull back? Are they in Russia territory? If President Putin truly does not intend war or regime change, the secretary told Foreign Minister Lavrov, then it's time to pull back troops and heavily weaponry and engage in serious discussions, senior State Department official told reporters. No, man, if he's not making threats, he wouldn't have his troops there. The U.S. is willing to discuss giving the equipment a way to verify the absence of Tomahawk cruise missiles at NATO bases in Romania and Poland if Russia shares similar information about missiles on certain Russian bases, Bloomberg reported. The White House and State Department did not immediately respond to the request, but commented. But a source familiar with the situation said the United States has only offered to have talks on a variety of Russian concerns, such as armed control issues, in the appropriate forums. Instrument. Putin has not spoken publicly about the Ukraine crisis since December 23, leaving ambiguity about his personal position, while diplomats from Russia and the West have been engaged in repeated rounds of talks. My question, are these troops in Russia? They're in Russia. I don't see an issue. We should not go to war over this. His remark on Tuesday reflects a worldview in which Russia needs to defend itself from an aggressive and hostile United States. Washington is not the primary concern with Ukraine's security, but with containing Russia, Putin said. In this sense, Ukraine itself is an instrument to achieve this goal. This can be done in different ways by drawing us into some kind of armed conflict and with the help of their allies in Europe, forcing the introduction against us, those harsh sanctions that they are talking about now in the U.S. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has often sparred with Western European leaders over democracy of his own country, says he believed that after his talks with Putin, there was room to compromise. I got convinced today that the existing differences in position can be bridged and possibly sign an agreement that would guarantee peace, guarantee Russia's security, and is acceptable for NATO member state as well, Orban said. Gun to Ukraine head. As Western countries rush to show solidarity with Ukraine, the U.S. urged Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro to cancel a visit with Putin in Russia, a source told Reuters. Wow. On Tuesday, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson met with President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv and accused Putin of holding a gun to Ukraine's head to demand changes in security architecture in Europe. It is vital that Russia steps back and chooses the path of diplomacy, Johnson said, and I believe that is still possible. We are keen to engage in dialogue, of course. We are, but we have a sanctions ready and we're providing military support, and we will also intensify our economic cooperation. So pretty much this is just, I'm almost done with here. But it doesn't really matter because we don't want war with Russia. Nobody wins in Russia. War with Russia. Europe's going to get destroyed. Russia or United States is going to fly a nuclear bomb, and it's going to be nuclear fallout for decades to come. This is kind of why this is all posturing, and we don't want war with Russia. It's mostly a first world country. Some will argue it's probably a second world country. We're somewhere in between the second and first world country. But we don't want war with Russia. Their troops are trained. They're more professional than the flip-flop terrorists we've been fighting in the desert. And keep in mind, those flip-flop wearing terrorists pretty much defeated the United States military. I'm not going to say it was like a defeat, but it was a battle of nutrition, and they won. We're no longer in Afghanistan, which means the terrorists won there. So, as this builds up, the time for diplomacy is now. The time for Biden to say war is off the table is now. But he's going to bumble us and we'll probably get into a conflict over a state that's supposed to belong to Russia, anyways. When I say it's supposed to belong to Russia, it's part of the USSR, which broke up because it went bankrupt, and Putin's just trying to get back its land. That's all. That's all. I mean, they may be better off under Russian control. They may be better off being independent. But it's not for us to decide. It's not for us to fight. It's a European issue. And when the European issues ask for our help, then we'll help. Until that, we need to stay out of it. Biden needs to shut up and let Russia and Ukraine deal with this issue by themselves. It's their issue to solve. And all this posturing is going to end badly for the United States. Let's say it that way. If we even think about going to war with Russia, we have already lost. We may win the war, but we have lost because the toll on us is going to be terrible. The toll on Europe continent is going to be terrible. And I'm not going to say Russia's going to win either. But even they'll lose. We all lose when we go to war on a scale that's about to happen. And I have a bad feeling about this that we're going to go to war with Russia, and I hope I'm wrong because nobody wins. With that being said, leave a comment down below. Smash the like and subscribe button on any and all platforms or just a platform you're currently watching. But most importantly, we need to tell our congressmen and women, that we do not want war with Russia. We got to send them a message on the federal government. We do not want war. And with that being said, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.